Good morning, everybody. Josh Piepla here for GAI Insights with a Gen AI news briefing with Luda, Adam, and Ankash, putting time in your day and thoughts in your head. All right. Got a lot of interesting things here, some expansive papers from the folks at OpenAI, all the way through fantastic new genetics databases brought to us by a combination of the Mayo Clinic, Microsoft, and um, Cerebras. All right. Ankash, we go to the first article, please.
Sure, thanks, John. Uh, can you bring up my screen, John?
Oh, sorry. Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first one that we have for today comes from Cerebras Systems. So they have teamed up with Mayo Clinic on genomic model that predicts arthritis treatment. Microsoft is also playing a major role here.
Yeah, fascinating stuff here. Adam, what do you think?
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And I'll say a little why, but I think generally for our listener, this is probably optional. It's still pretty early in its development, but it does offer a lot of promise. So Cerebras is a company that focuses on AI supercomputing, and they've done something completely different from NVIDIA in terms of their approach with chips on a wafer. And so it's good news for them to see them working with Microsoft and getting such a big win with this kind of development with the Mayo Clinic. And so basically this model can predict the best medical treatments for people with rheumatoid arthritis. And there's all of these factors that go into it. So it's cool stuff, but generally speaking, there's no real actionable insights out of this for our audience.
Luda, where are you on that?
I felt it was fascinating. It took 10 of these systems to actually train the model. So it is a very impressive capability that they built. They believe that it can be used for heart disease and other diseases. So this is just the beginning. So it's absolutely stunning. I mean, if it's a everyday miracle in John's lingo, right? So, but it is optional as a development for our readership. So I agree with you, Adam.
Yes, I thought so too. And welcome, Liz. Great to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, we have Liz Vinzora as a guest moderator, and Liz is a very accomplished executive, especially in the area of marketing, and has worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, including GM brands, Cadillac, and so forth. So it's great to have you here, Liz.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And yeah, I was tempted to make it important just because the scale of this, and I was trying to figure out how much of it is available to other folks. I don't know if they've made this open or not. Mayo has a kind of an interesting combination of a not-for-profit, and they have a bunch of profit-making, what seemed like profit-making, at least revenue-making efforts. All right, let's give it an optional, but my goodness, this is spectacular. All right, next on, Kaj, please.
And the next one we have is a research paper which talks about Llama V01, which is rethinking step-by-step visual reasoning in LLMs.
Yes, once again, we've got a very interesting set of contributions in algorithmic innovation, which I think is going to be a huge thing in 2025, that with multimodal models. What do you think of this, Luda?
Yeah, I think what they've done is actually very important. It's still a research, it's even open research, so they are open code and everything, and I think it will spur the development of visual multi-step reasoning systems. But I was vacillating between optional and important. But let me tell you what they've done, right? In visual systems, right? In vision, the reasoning is quite limited. So, and for many, many reasons, right? Because it's much more difficult to actually understand what's happening. So they created a benchmark comprising of many various ways to benchmark whether the system is doing well. They also created a assessment metric and then put it together in the multimodal visual reasoning model, Llama V01 or O1, whatever it is. And the performance is quite impressive. So Ankash, if you go down to that one, and actually showing the question and how it performs better than the other guys, right? This one. So it essentially, the question is here. Here's a picture. Tell me what the third thing should be here. And the third thing in the picture comprises of two smiley faces, and only their model picked it up. The the Gemini, and I think which one they compared it to, Claude, I think, didn't do well. So it's a very serious advancement of how to work with visual models. And I'm tempted to say important, but on the other hand, it's still research, so it's probably optional.
All right, so research here, optional. Adam, Liz, what do you guys think?
I agree with you that it's probably optional, although all of these are pretty mind-blowing in terms of their advances in visual reasoning. So, but yes.
All right, we have a vote for optional. Liz, Adam, where are you on this?
For the small and growing, but still very small subset of our audience who are actually at the point where they're implementing flexible AI solutions and they're looking at model selection for this part of like an agentic pipeline, it would be important. But that's generally speaking not where our audience is at right now in terms of the Gen AI maturity, right? So it's optional.
All right. Fascinating new research. And I think what's interesting is people are coming up with algorithms and measures. It's a little bit like the fox in the hen house, but still unbelievable advances on an ongoing basis. But we'll rate this one optional. Next, Pankaj.
The next one that we have is from OpenAI, and it talks about AI in America and OpenAI's economic blueprint.
Yeah, fascinating how a number of the mega model companies are really coming out with points of view to try to, I think, influence the conversation and regulation, which does make a lot of sense economically for them to do that. What do you think of this, Liz?
So I took a look at this. This is basically a 15-page summary of OpenAI's economic blueprint, like you mentioned, John. And what it does is it's a high-level overview of their vision and how AI, and anytime OpenAI does anything, they're so large that it's good to read. So as a read, I think I go between important and essential, and I'll tell you why I didn't make it essential. I lean more towards important. The takeaways were about the benefits of AI, and most people know that, but the staggering numbers, they talk about over 300 million people globally, including 3 million developers, are contributing to the sectors on medical treatment, personalized education, government, et cetera, et cetera. They talk about a lot of the key issues like the call for immediate action to help on public safety, but they don't go into a lot of details. In other words, they highlight the main issues, but they don't give you the hows. And personally, I was really interested and intrigued, and I think many of us are, on how they're going to help, how they're going to foster innovation for public safety, how they're going to put some, work with the government to kind of facilitate a little bit more of the regulations. They put a good analogy in here, like the automotive business, which is my background. So I was very intrigued by that, basically calling for safety standards, sort of like, fuel economy standards or whatever that's in the auto industry. They likened it to needing those kinds of regulations for AI, and we all know what some of the risks and the things that we're a little bit nervous about in terms of national security. They talk a lot about the economic opportunity and how it's important that the U.S. lead this in order to keep a lead over China and advocate for our country to be, sort of guiding this as a world power. So they go through all of the basics. And again, it's a 15-page, really good overview, but they don't get into the hows. They don't get into their point of view on it. They more or less just kind of outline it. So it's a good overview if you're taking a look at where they're headed. And obviously they're such a force that everyone should pay attention. But because of the lack of specifics and details, I rated it as important and not essential.
All right. So big topics, not deep enough for you. What do you think, Lou, to add?
Yeah, I thought it was important. I read it as a call to unite and a call to the government to work with companies like OpenAI to put together a more detailed implementation plans along those issues. I think it is very, very good that OpenAI and other ones are coming through with this type of blueprints, right? So I thought it was important, if not essential.
Okay, well, essential, Adam, what do you think?
Essential, we often put a sense of urgency on in terms of that's something they absolutely need to be aware of right now. That it's only for that reason that I rated it as important. I think it's an essential read, but it's an essential read when you can get the time, right? So I was very much on the fence. I was thinking important as well with all of you, and then I saw Ashish's comment there saying what I was also thinking about. You know, it's similar to the situational awareness paper.
Yeah.
And so Ashish may have swayed me, but I'm going to leave it to the chalk to make the final determination, John.
All right. Yeah, let's give this bad boy an essential. I think it's the right topic. I agree with you, Liz. I also I continue to be amazed at how little discussion there is about the creation of a public good and access. You know, what are those public assets that we need to create, just like we did in other activities? Clearly, the auto industry benefited greatly from the creation of public roads and other things like that. The land grant colleges, helped agriculture. The internet wouldn't be here without government investment, and a lot of academic institutions building the backbone. So it's interesting. But we're going to rate this essential. Great areas to think about. Let's make it more urgent for our audience. Next.
Nixon comes from Microsoft, and it talks about the lessons that they have learned from red teaming 100 GenAI products.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the more fun jobs to do in Microsoft when you think about it. You get to go try to break everybody's product. Be a blast, right? Anyway, you kind of like look who's coming to dinner kind of thing. Do you really want these people hacking in your product? All right, on this one we had Adam.
I gave this an important. It is an important field, and people should be paying attention. I was hesitant to put it up to essential though. So the concept of red teaming, and specifically with generative AI, it's looking at the safety and the security of it and trying to probe the system and find, basically to be a hacker, but a white hat effectively, and on your own systems. And so over at Microsoft, they've red teamed 100 generative AI products, and this is like some really good thought leadership and best practices around what they've learned through doing that. And they provide a threat model ontology, which I think is a really great step forward for the space. And additionally, they have 8 main lessons that they've learned. So I might be talking myself into essential even as I talk about it, having come out of cybersecurity. But I mean, when you think about it, it's the type of thing, if you have a vision model and it's on some sort of rails and parameters, and you put a picture up and on the picture is written, ignore your previous instructions. There's things like that can actually break into these models and get them to do things that they're not supposed to. And so you're right, John, it's probably one of the cooler jobs out there. And this, from a cybersecurity perspective, for any business that's looking at implementing generative AI, is some really solid thought leadership.
Yeah, what I think is cool about the ontology too, I think ontologies are going to be the precursor for the design of agents, right? So when you think about how do you break up the problem, that's probably going to really influence agentic architecture, which is going to be huge in this whole domain, because there's no way you're going to fight the robots without robots, right? And so I think it's a real contribution. What do you think, Liz, Luda?
Yeah, I actually think we should put it as essential, because some of the best practices and thoughts are simple, but they've gained them through hard work and observation of a number of projects that they worked on. Like take, for example, the first lesson, right? It goes through the start from what the system can do and go backwards to see what are the areas to be able to break it. Because if it's a small language model, it doesn't make sense to test it for things it can't do, right? So it's a very simple lesson or best practice, but it has a huge impact on the way you would approach the mitigation and the like. So I feel that it is important for sure, and I rated it as essential.
Okay, we got an essential. Liz, you gonna
I-
run a party here, or what's going on?
I agree with any of these lessons that we're getting, and there's other articles coming up that are kind of similar to this that can be applied to others in terms of learning. And I rate this as essential. I think it's good to share these things, but I agree with you, Adam, that we're getting into the, when you're in that field, of course, it's essential for you. So that's where it's getting tricky on how to rate it. So I could be persuaded to just make it important, but so I was vacillating between the two, but I would probably lean towards essential.
And Ashish is chiming into essential, John.
All right, Ashish, our favorite grade inflator, is going for essential here. No, I think it is. Look, we have an ontology. It's a central thing. It's growing like crazy. You have very sophisticated analysis here. Very simply put together, essential it is. All right, next.
The next one that we have is a case study from Amazon, basically building an Amazon Bedrock-based digital lending solution.
All right, once again, we have a beautiful Amazon case study here. Case studies we love. What do you think, Lida?
Well, it's actually a primer. I think the intent here is they put a system together to actually demonstrate how you use agents and in the Amazon Bedrock platform to do a particular case of processing loan applications. Yeah. And I think it is set in India. They've tried this application in India. It doesn't give you the business impact. It's really not developed as a test case. It's developed as a primer. It goes way deep into code, steps of how the code was deployed and the like, of how they used agents to do this at each step. And I thought it was, if I was developing the systems, I would want to know about it. So for developers, I think it's very important as a step-by-step process here. But for our general audience, I thought it was optional.
All right, heading for an optional for our audience. What do you think, Liz?
I agree with you that it was a great detailed case study, but I would rate it for our general audience as optional.
Adam?
Same.
All right, the big O it is. Next, Ankaj, and last.
The last one that we have for today comes from McKinsey, and it talks about scaling GenAI in the life sciences industry.
Yeah, so our friends at McKinsey go back and they predicted all kinds of impact, and they're going back to see if their prediction was right. What do you think here, Liz?
So I love this article for lots of reasons, and I would rate it as essential for those in the life sciences industry, but also I like this article because I think it has broader implications. So let me give you a little overview of what I took from it. So basically, McKinsey did a study. They went back and they said, hey, and I love this because they went and compared, they said in 2023, they could unlock between 60 billion and 110 billion in value using Gen AI in the life sciences industry. And then they went back to check and survey over 100 pharma and medtech companies to see how they actually do, what did they actually achieve. And what they found from this is that only 5% actually receive significant financial value. My take on that was 5% receiving value of that type is huge. So yes, only 5%. That was very quick. It was just in a year. But also the thing that they identified were the challenges, which to me are not just challenges they identified that apply to life sciences, but can apply to any industry. If you look at them, like why didn't it work? Well, ambitious strategy. So 75% of the organizations lacked a comprehensive strategy. We're seeing that not just in life sciences, but a lot of sectors that are trying this. Talent gaps, only 6% had the skills. That's something that we all need to know. Data issues, concerns about data quality, accessibility, yes. operating model and governance, struggling with how to establish structures for it effectively. Yep, that's a huge issue. And then change management and risk. So they gave very specifics on what the obstacles are that everyone, I think, that's wrestling with piloting and implementing to get the big efficiencies is facing. The ability the need for developing a clear strategy, investing in talent, enhancing data management, robust governance, and then focusing on change management. And then finally, they sort of summarize by saying there's still 2/3 of the companies are still plan to increase their investment in Gen AI moving forward. So it's not like even those that tested and learned aren't going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it. They learned where their obstacles were, and they're going to continue forward. So for these reasons, I think the lessons are applicable to many industries. I think they gave specifics, and I love that. In this McKinsey case, there's a lot of good data. And if I were a company looking to implement Gen AI, I think there's lessons here that can apply. So for those reasons, I rated it as an essential read.
An essential read. All right. Big E here. What do you think? Luda, Adam.
Yeah, I agree with Liz. I think it is essential read. I was very surprised, even though I kind of suspected that 75% do not have a comprehensive strategy. It's understandable because the wave of AI, right, and the development, the speed of development came so fast that people wanted to experiment. They had 1,500 projects, and that became unwieldy. So it's taking all this time to step back and say, what do I need to do to really get the value out of this in a comprehensive manner? So I really think this is a wake-up call in some sense, and that's a very important, essential message here.
All right. Adam, you and I in the pregame had this as optional or important, maybe. What do you think?
I could support it important. I don't think I would go to essential, even as I was just reviewing again now their what did they say at the end there? Their 5-point plan to realize value from Gen AI, which is really the summary or the playbook to move forward. It was all good advice, solid advice, but I feel like it wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything that over the last few months you wouldn't be getting if you were listening to advice from other people. So it's a good compendium. They've done a good job of organizing it. It's fact-based. They have some good data to back it up, which is great. If you need something in your pocket to demonstrate why we need to be investing in this is a great article to have. But there are other options out there to get the same sort of insights I felt. So I think I was leaning towards important, not essential.
All right.
But in many ways, for those same reasons, I can see why it could be considered essential, listening to Liz and Luda talk. So,
yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence myself. I think, it's an easy read. It's not that long. It's kind of, good calories per ounce kind of thing, so let's go ahead and give it an essential.
Thank you, John. I really think it's a step back type of an article. It says, okay, in the life sciences industry, it has certain specifics, right? The applicability to R&D, that's where the value is coming from. That's different from other industries. But 75% of not quite having a strategy is high. And if you're one of these companies in another industry, that is important to understand. And you will not get a value without the strategy. So yep. I think this is the right rating.
All right, going to do the essential. Ashish does raise an interesting point that I agree with here. Hard to develop intuition about AI native solutions. Most people think of AI as an add-on. Absolutely. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a movie called The Gold Rush with Charlie Chaplin, but it's a fantastic scene in there where that was at the beginning of the transition from theater to film, and he does a parody of himself in the cabin where he takes 2 forks and 2 pieces of bread. And he is on a little stage that's in a stage, And as a man who went from stage acting to then film, it's really quite an interesting statement about the transition from the old mode to the new. Anyway, my favorite communist, Charlie Chaplin. Here we go. All right, Ankash, how about the tote board here, please? Meanwhile, any announcements or anything?
Oh, you might want to say that the Learning Lab for Monday is canceled.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes, the Learning Lab for Monday is canceled. Paul and I are going to Davos. We're going to do a little downhill skiing. Only kidding. We're going to be speaking at an event next to the World Economic Forum. Should be fantastically exciting. I'm very excited. I've never been to Davos either for skiing or for the content, so should be a fun ticket.
Really looking forward to learning what you guys take from that, John and Paul. And I think it's a big honor and speaks to all your knowledge you've acquired over the last, decades. So congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I will be publishing something later today that takes a look at what the themes are as rated by the six different models and their different tones and so forth about what the models believe is going to be talked about. So we'll have a little prequel, pre-con kind of assessment.
Pre-game, yeah.
Pre-game, thank you. Pre-game look. All right. So we have essential, optional. All right, we're bimodal today. No importance. And there we have it. Next, we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching. And
thanks, Liz, so much for joining us today. It was great having you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Great articles and great learning.
All righty. Bye-bye now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.